Hi everyone, Trina here. Just wanted to do a quick check-in with y'all and give you a quick rundown of what I found about the astral knots, because this was something that was brought up to us and I had never heard about an astral knot before. So I thought it was kind of interesting and I thought I would do a little research on it and see what I could find out. So this is kind of what I found. And what I found is that the best information I could come as to yet, maybe you guys can find more, was from, it's called Petri stones, and it's the Freemasons like information. So it's from Petri stones, and they were talking about the different, the knots and the tessellated borders of the knots and what the importance that is to the masons. Apparently they use the knotted border around the square floor, the checkerboard floor, which is a symbol of protection, that once they enter into that space, because they're surrounded by the tesseract knots and the knots around the floor, it's a symbol of protection. So also one of the most known symbols of the knots are the love knots. So this can also go into a dark aspect, and it can be used to bind or curse and then let loose by the untying of the knot. So these knots were also very special to sailors. Sailors used these knots, and when they wanted the wind to increase to help push them with their sails, they would untie the knots to let the wind come in at full power, and they would activate the wind through the knots and the releasing thereof. So also, one of the earliest known to speak about the love knot was Hercules. So Hercules also talked about the eight, the symbol of the eight, the infinity. So it also represents the infinity knot. So this was popular through the time of the Renaissance as well. And also at that time, one of the most common things you would give to somebody that you loved was you would give them a love knot. And that showed that you had unity or love for them. So this emblem is indeed a celestial frame. And that's when they use it as a border. So they use it as a border. So when it's the border, it's a celestial frame that limits, separates, and protects the world of light from the world of darkness, the sacred from the profane. So also, it can refer to the way our planets circle the sun. It's a protective border around the sun, and the way that it spins and makes all of these beautiful loops within each other creates the knots, creates the beautiful patterns of the geometry that we circle around every day around our central sun and our luminary, the sun. So this power is a very old power, and it's obviously very highly regarded. And it is also a symbol of protection, but it can also be used as a symbol of binding. So the power, when it is knotted with love, it is the golden chain that can let down into the well of truth, or the invisible chain that links or binds the ranks of humanity all together. So that was what I found about the knots and the astral knots and the love knots and the sacred knots. So they also stated in there too that the significance of humanity learning to create knots was almost as fundamental as the way we evolved when we learned how to create the wheel. So apparently this was a very big foundational step in our evolution as humanity, because as we learned to tie knots, we learned to weave baskets, create sails, we learned to sew, we learned how to secure things, we learned how to tie secure knots for the saddles, the horses, the tents, all of it. So this was a huge part of our evolution through the process of learning how to tie knots. So these can be used for good or for negative purposes, but it was beautiful to learn a little bit about astral knots because it was something I had never known about before. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope it gives you a little information, and it gives you some more information. So if you want to look further, you can go into the story of Hercules and the wind knots and love knots and the Renaissance love knots and all of the knots that we have in our history. So apparently there's many. But this was what I found with love knots. The most profound to me was that when this power is formulated with love, it is the golden chain that we let down into the well of truth. Or also known as the invisible chain that links or binds all of humanity together. So that was my favorite part of it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you found it informative, and I'll see you on the next one. Much love. Have a great day. Bye.